Good morning, folks, and welcome to my daily technical analysis video for Tuesday, the 23rd of February 2021. I have two pairs on watch today, but I'm going to talk you through my pound CAD trade first of all, in the interests of transparency, because I took another loss on that one yesterday, so I shall talk you through that now. So we start off with that pound CAD trade, and we start off on the weekly chart. I don't have to rush quite as much as I usually do because I've got less on watch today. So we'll start off on the weekly chart, looking at this standout liquidity point there, or fairly standout liquidity point. And we ask ourselves, how did we get there? We know that the support and resistance traders will be looking at this. We know that typically they buy once price gets above these because they believe that what was previously resistance becomes support once it's broken above. And what we see in the majority of cases, although not all, is it retraces against them, and then the fear that is induced once it travels in the direction for which they weren't anticipating is often what kickstarts the big moves to the downside. So with that in mind, we ask ourselves, how do we get there? So how do we get to this area? Because if we got there correctively, that's a strong sign that we might be pushing to the downside, but it's not enough of a factor on its own to warrant us getting short. So, but when we see a 1, 2, 3, a structural and corrective move, then that heightens that pricks my ears ever so slightly and gives me a clue that we might be pushing lower. So then I drill down to the low time frames and ask myself, can I see the scoops between the points? Yes, I can see the scoops between the points. The points are fairly equidistant. That's another tick in the box. We then get these kind of tweezer tops here on the daily chart. This second one hadn't printed, I don't think, when I got in. We've got the zones marked in, so I end my zones where I see a standout negative confluence factor. So as I see it, this trend line would be one, and then I will be targeting this as well, but just looking at this, the overall target after this one being this low here, because we know that once we break a trend line such as this, if we do so and we get a correction afterwards, we then have a 90% chance of getting 90% of the way to the start of this correction, which would be here. So if I just drill down a little bit further, we go down to the 4-hour chart, and if I just unhide the trade a minute, so we got the trade there. We did have it'll be visible on the lower time frames, but anyway, we have this rejection here, and then we just have, you can see we're just having multiple rejections there. That gave me a clue that we might be pushing lower, and then of course, so we get this. Where are we? So we get, I remember now. It was this. I saw this candle here, which engulfed all of these previous candles here after these rejections of this upper trend line. That was a good clue for me to want to get involved. We know the market likes to trade in threes. We'd had that on the higher time frames. So then I asked myself, can I see the impulse down on the 1-hour chart? And the answer is yes. So then I start looking to see if I can find a little flag on the 15-minute chart. If I just hide these zones a second. So there we go. We get a nice flag, 2 clear tops and bottoms in accordance with my forecast. And I place an order just underneath there. And then I get triggered in. I put my stop loss just above, if we were to plot a trend line from here to here and across here, putting my stop loss just above there, just to give it, in case it kind of retests this, the back end of this neckline, as it were. So then we get triggered in. By this point, I'm managing it on the 1-hour chart. And I see this corrective price action already. We ask ourselves about the nature of the market. How is price moving? How has price moved down? It's moved down since it triggered me in. It's moved down very slow and correctively. That gives me a clue that we're pushing higher to either, if I just drill back, to create, a kind of falcon flag on the 15-minute chart. So where we push up, we break just above here, and then the support and resistance traders see this, as a support and resistance zone. So they start buying, and then what often happens is it retraces against them. The fear kicks in, as I've touched on before, and then perhaps that would start the move to the downside. So by this point, when we're getting down to here, it wasn't looking great, to be honest, because if we weren't doing that, then it was likely that we're pushing all the way back to the top of structure, which is what eventually happened and how I got taken out for the loss. But I was under, we were still in the green zone. It's important to zoom out. We're still in this green zone, kind of sort of just trickling into the amber zone, but there was a lot of downside potential. If you remember me saying we could potentially be going all the way down to here, I was happy. What the hell? I was happy to let this give this one a little bit more room. So what my plan was, and I stuck to my plan, and that's the most important thing. If we'd have pushed just below here, these lows, I would have locked in, I would have moved my stop loss to break even, but it didn't happen. So I was taken out for the loss, and that is the end of that. So we move on to what I have on watch today. That's another loss. Taken plenty this year. It's not been a great year at all at the moment, but who knows? Things can change. Pound dollar, first of the bunch that I have on watch. Just trying to keep these forecasts. I've got plenty to be getting on with elsewhere in my life. So, I'm trying to keep these forecasts and these videos as short and sweet as possible at the moment until I have more time to commit to trading. So we have this expanding pattern. We have this 1, 2, 3. It breaks above there, but again, okay, we're getting a bit of momentum, but we ask ourselves, how do we get there? We got there by way of a 1, 2, 3. This will be a little bit clearer on the lower time frames. I'd like to see bigger scoops between the points, but, kind of everything in life, as this year has proven to me. So, and then we got the zones marked in again. And then, I see this as a kind of standout negative confidence factor. You could argue that this is, and I'm pretty sure I drew that on the lower time frames. Yes, I did. So, we know that if we break this trend line, we've got, and we do so by way of an impulse followed by a correction, we've got a 90% chance to get into the bottom of this correction, and perhaps even, all the way down here. But, let's target what's obvious to us to start with, and then work from there if we get down to these areas. So if I just drill down a bit more, we kind of had this expanding pattern at the end of it. So we had this 1, 2, 3 equal spacing, an expanding pattern at the end of it. So we have this just corrective price action. Then we start to get the pattern as people start to think this is selling off. They start selling off, and then it retraces. Before you know it, we've got a 1, 2, 3 at the end of this 1, 2, 3, which is broken structurally and correctively above this 1, 2, 3, or this 1, 2, 3, 4, giving me a clue that we are perhaps headed for more downside. If I just drill down a little bit more, I was looking at this. I was actually trying to get a risk entry up here in accordance with my forecast. It never quite materialized because I saw this 1, 2, 3. This was yesterday. I was trying to get this at the end of this 1, 2, 3, which lined up with this 1, 2, 3. Nice clear scoops between the points. Even this little, this last piece of price action there. So I didn't manage to get in. I'm not going to go into the details. I think I had a risk entry. Then I decided that this was a little bit too impulsive by the end of it. So I just left it alone. So what I will be looking for on this one will be the following. Quite simply, I should have moved this over a bit, but if we get a push down, so if price pushes down from here and it impulses down below this trend line, it's already below this one, but below this one and below this one. So if I was to extend that, I've reined these trend lines in just to touch on it using pattern separation. That helps us focus on the most recent piece of price action while still being aware of the higher time frame structure. But if price pushes down below, so if I'd extended that out like that, if it pushes below all of these trend lines, then I would wait for a subsequent correction, so a flag, and then I would look to get short on the break of the flag. That is all I'm going to be looking for on this one today. So I suppose I can set an alert. Let's just set one. I'll just leave this actually. I'll just monitor this one, I think. Or will I? I'll just monitor this one because these trend lines are kind of a moving target, so it's not easy to suggest where we might actually, when price might actually be below this. So we'll just leave that one, and that's what I'll be looking for today, and I will monitor this and stick the zones back in there. So hopefully that's nice and clear. Let's blue flag that. I put a blue flag on these just to remind myself that I'm not waiting for an alert. I'm actually just, monitoring it periodically. So Aussie Swiss, last of the bunch, weekly chart. Looking at this one, do excuse me, I've got an itchy nose. So we have this liquidity point, which will be slightly more clear on the daily chart. And we get there by way of a 1, 2, 3 with fairly equal spacing. And it's a nice parallel structure, giving me a clue that perhaps this move is almost ready to retrace to the downside. What did I say before? We know that support and resistance traders look to buy here. I've noticed that we typically get this momentum in before it gets to here, and I believe that that's partly because the sellers sit on their hands waiting for it to get to these areas, which creates an imbalance in the market, which causes buyers to kind of rule the roost, as it were, until we get up to these areas. Then we start to see the stalling in momentum. So looking at this, you can see I like the fact that we have this 1, 2, 3, as I said, fairly equal spacing. We have this kind of middle section. So after this first inflection point, we get a move down, a push up, a 1, 2, 3. And if I wanted to, I could plot. I don't do it because I'm trying to keep my charts clean, but I could plot trend lines, from here to here and here to here. And then this thing, in my opinion, would resemble the sides of a bridge. And that's what I mean by a middle section, this section here. So just looking at this, and if we drill down, there's not a great deal to see on this. I've got the zones marked in and the zones within zones. So there's not a great deal. What we are getting is this kind of, this stall and momentum here. That's a good clue. Look at this. After this impulse up, it's starting to plateau. It's getting slow, low momentum candles there. And if we just drill down to the 1 hour chart, that's becoming even clearer. I wouldn't be considering a risk entry because we've kind of broken out of the structure. So with that in mind, all I will be waiting for from this pair, I don't know why I've got two forecasts on there. That definitely wasn't the case last night. I hope that TradingView haven't lost my forecast again. No, it doesn't appear they have. I definitely never had that on the charts. So what I'll be waiting for, ideally, I would obviously like to see a push back down, below this ray line. But we can't have everything really, because that would mean that the people that started buying above here, all of them potentially would have been caught the wrong side of the market, unless they've closed their positions and taken profits, etc. So what I will be looking for in a realistic world will be. I was just going to say that's not really a world we're living in at the minute, but that's another story. If we push down from here, if we push down below this trend line, so if we impulse down in a convincing manner, and we impulse below this trend line, so we're back in the pattern, I'd wait for a subsequent correction, so a flag, and then I would look to get short on the break of the flag. Again, this is kind of a moving target, so I'm just going to monitor this one. If it was a ray line, nice flat line, I would set an alert, because obviously it's not a moving target, and we would know whether one way or the other whether we've broken below it or not. But with this being a moving target, which is getting, if I was to extend this out, would be getting higher and higher, I don't actually know where to set the alert. So I'm just going to leave that and monitor that one as well. So that's what I'm going to be looking for today, folks. Nice and simple. No multiple entries for me. Just one entry type. Just looking for that one thing like a typical man. And that's what I will be looking for today. I hope you've taken some value from this. And I will be back tomorrow with another video on Wednesday the 24th of February 2021. I shall bid you a great day and I'll speak to you again soon. Thanks for watching.